Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about your hips to rings, okay? So obviously hips to rings, it's a movement progression that we use a lot when we're looking at learning your ring muscle ups, okay? And it can be a movement which can take a little bit of getting your head around, all right? So I just wanted to make this short video just to talk to you about some common faults, okay? And try and help you to think about the kind of positions you need to be getting into, okay? So your hips to rings, obviously they're not too dissimilar to your hips to bar. Okay, so if you've seen our video on hips to bar, a lot of these things should be familiar to you. Okay, now the common mistake that people make when they do a hips to ring is that they end up in a position that's pretty much just like a ring swing. Okay, so they end up with their body kind of fully parallel to the ground. Okay, their feet and hips are a long way out in front of them, okay? And a lot of the swing is kind of coming more from obviously the leg swing and then obviously swinging through your shoulders, and you've not really got any kind of lat engagement and you're not really getting too much power from your hips, which makes it actually harder to get your hips as close to the rings as you need to, okay? So when you do your hips to ring, what you want to think about, obviously, you're going to have gone through your normal ring swing motion, okay? Once you get your feet up to roughly kind of 90 degrees, maybe perhaps a little bit higher, all right? That's when you want to start to pop your hips, okay? Now, what a lot of people do is they pop their hips, but they let their feet keep rising with them, okay? Which is what brings them out in that kind of horizontal position, all right? But what you want to try and do is pop your hips and let your hips start to rise higher than your feet, okay? So ideally, your hips will come up, your feet will stay where they are, so you end up in a much more that kind of body position, all right? So say, like, let's just say 45 degrees, which is gonna help you get your hips closer to the rings. And because your upper body's a little bit more vertical, it's gonna make your transition, you pull over the top of the rings much easier. Whereas if you're completely horizontal, you've got much further to go before you can get over the top into that transition, okay? The other thing when you do this is you want to try and also make sure that you keep your hands so your palms are facing away from you, okay? What you don't want to do is pull the rings in towards your hips this way, because again, when you come to transition, it's going to make it a little bit harder to get over the top of the rings, all right? So what you want to try and do is keep your palms facing away from you so you can push down into the rings, and that's going to help you get more engagement through your lat instead of trying to pull through your bicep, okay? And again, it's that combination of your lats and hips working together that gets you into the position you need to be to then transition over the rings. And because you've already got the rings in this position, it's going to make it much easier to get your hand over the top into that transition, okay? So you're going to be able to catch it much smoother, all right? Now, another thing with the hips to ring, okay, is making sure that when you do pop your hips, it's not an isolated hip pop movement, okay? Because if you just pop your hips, even if you leave your feet where you are, you're still gonna feel quite loose through your core and through your upper body, okay? So what we're really looking for is that synchronization between your hip pop and pushing down into the rings. And it's those two things together that give you the power you need to get your hips right up, and then obviously in the future, transition over the top. Okay, so next time you have a go at your hips to rings, guys, just have a think about those things, all right? Try and focus on getting more into that kind of 45-degree body position, keeping your palms facing away from you and trying to push the rings down towards your hips instead of trying to pull them in using your biceps, okay? Hope that helps, guys. See you soon.